I think we all know the feeling, the weight of problems pressing down, the impulse to run or to find a way out. It's one of the most basic human instincts to escape hardship, fear or danger, whether by fleeing, hiding or simply imagining a different life. Comics have long reflected this urge, but few characters embody it as fully as Mr. Miracle. Scott Free, the new god who became the world's greatest escape artist, survives by outwitting, outpacing and outlasting those who wish to do him harm. Unlike, say, Orion of New Genesis, his talent is not for violence or domination, but for evasion, for patience, and maintaining his composure no matter what struggle he faces. Mr. Miracle made his first appearance in Mr. Miracle No. 1, published in 1971 in a story that was written, edited, and illustrated by the legendary Jack Kirby. He was a titan of the comic book world. By the late 1960s, he had co-created much of Marvel's defining era, from Captain America to the X-Men. But by the 1970s, he became restless and his move to DC was seismic. For Kirby, leaving Marvel was a declaration of creative independence. At DC, he launched his ambitious Fourth World Comics, a series of interconnected titles exploring cosmic conflicts and moral philosophy. Of these, Mr. Miracle was the only title named after an individual, distinguishing Scott Free from the larger-scale narratives of Orion's war against Darkseid in The New Gods, or the youthful rebellion of the Forever People. While those titles were epic and mythic, Mr. Miracle's stories were more often grounded in personal struggle, echoing the human desire to overcome adversity and claim his own space within Kirby's expansive mythology. Mr. Miracle was initially inspired by artist Jim Steranko's flair for showmanship and ingenuity, and Kirby often said as much. Yet the character is arguably as much a reflection of Jack Kirby himself. Kirby's own life was a continual series of escapes, from the poverty of the Lower East Side, the anti-Semitism of the 1940s, near-death experiences in World War II, and the creative constraints of editors and publishing contracts. In Scott Free, Kirby created a character who embodied that lifelong instinct, a hero whose calm, measured approach to adversity mirrors the strategies Kirby aspired to use to navigate a challenging world. As for his story, he was the son of Highfather, ruler of New Genesis. As part of a peace pact with its barbarous sister planet Apokolips, he was exchanged at birth with Darkseid's son. He was so young that he hadn't been given a name yet, and when he was handed over to Granny Goodness, matron of Darkseid's cruel orphanage, she ironically named him Scott Free, as in getting away scot-free. As a subject of Granny Goodness, Scott and the other children were subjected to relentless training designed to crush their spirit, their identities, and their will. Most importantly, they were forced to wear matching uniforms and their heads were shaved, stripping them of their identity. Most of his peers succumbed to fear, brutality, and indoctrination, willingly serving Darkseid. But not Scott. On the surface, he seemed like the ideal pupil, but in secret, he plotted his escape. From an early age, he showed a singular talent, the ability to survive through calm, intelligence, and precision. He endured punishments that would have broken almost anyone, observing, learning, and preparing. This foundation of measured resistance would define his approach as Mr. Miracle. Escape is never about panic, rage, or force. It is about strategy, foresight, handling pressure, and choosing the right moment. After meeting the New Genesian rebel Haimon and his small band of pupils, Scott was encouraged to envision a life beyond Apokolips. It was here he met Big Barda, who would become his partner and eventual wife. Together they plotted their flight from the planet, defying Granny Goodness's totalitarian control. And when Scott eventually broke free, he essentially broke the peace pact between New Genesis and Apokolips, which gave Darkseid the excuse he needed to continue his quest to conquer all living things. Once on Earth, Scott assumed the identity of Mr. Miracle, inheriting the name and skills of a circus escape artist, Thaddeus Brown, after Brown's murder. With Barda by his side, he confronted the lingering agents of Apokolips, often relying on cleverness and timing rather than sheer strength. Having said that, as a new god, he still possessed formidable abilities. He was very fast, but really, Barda was the muscle of the group. For a closer look at Barda's role in both the comics and the DC animated universe, check out a separate video I made about her, linked to in the info button. Add that to your watch later list if the subject interests you. Mr. Miracle's origin is a meditation on the art of escape itself. Every hardship Scott endured, childhood abuse, forced servitude, and the threat of Darkseid, hell, even his birthright as the heir of New Genesis, shaped a hero whose power lied in evasion, resilience, and compassion. His story reflects Kirby's own life philosophy. The greatest freedom comes not from controlling others, but from mastering oneself and navigating life's traps with intelligence and poise. With some distance, we can see how Jack Kirby spent his life trying to break free. He faced poverty, prejudice, near-death experiences, and the limitations of the comic book industry itself. Each of these pressures demanded an escape, whether literal, social, or creative. And with that in mind, I find it impossible to separate Scott free from Kirby himself. Just as Scott rejects his birthright and flees Apokolips, Kirby sought autonomy in his career and even left New York for California. His Fourth World comics were his declaration of independence, and Kirby created a universe where cosmic battles mirrored the personal struggles he had endured. Scott Free embodies Kirby's philosophy of escape. Just as Kirby used his imagination and craft to overcome the barriers in his life, Mr. Miracle uses skill, intellect, and calm determination to navigate a world built to trap him. And this is what sets Mr. Miracle apart. Broadly speaking, aggression in men is celebrated. Strength, speed, and a willingness to confront danger head-on are treated as the highest virtues. In comics, heroes are praised for their ability to dominate foes, for using force to impose order. Even in morally complex stories, the instinct is to show power and respond to conflict with violence. Mr. Miracle is different though. In most stories, he doesn't seek out his former life. All he wants to do is prepare for his upcoming big performance, and each issue opens with him practicing a new death-defying stunt. The fact that his big show never actually took place really tickles my funny bone, perhaps because people from his past kept getting in the way, but it also feels like a metaphor for life and how it never really goes the way we planned it. Now, with his character established, let's segue to the DC Animated Universe version. Much of his comic backstory involving the pact between Apokolips and New Genesis remains. He was Highfather's son, handed over to Darkseid, while Highfather was given Orion to raise. Despite his significance in the Fourth World storyline and Darkseid's prominent role in Superman the Animated Series, he only briefly appeared in the show, visible as part of the forces of New Genesis at the end of Apokolips Now, Part 2. In fact, so little was said about him that several people left comments on my videos about Orion and Kalibak, insisting that Kalibak was Highfather's son, not Scott Free, which is not even remotely true. Darkseid literally says he can hardly believe that someone as incompetent as Kalibak is his biological son. But that aside, Mr. Miracle didn't get a larger role until the Justice League Unlimited episode, The Ties That Bind. The story was written by Jim Steranko, who, as I mentioned earlier, partially inspired the character. It was also directed by Dan Reber, who personally worked with Kirby at the animation studio Ruby Spears in the 1980s. And I think that these personal connections to Kirby really elevate the episode. As much as Superman the Animated Series was dedicated to the work of Jack Kirby, The Ties That Bind is a tribute to the man's best qualities. The plot involves Mr. Miracle and Big Barda being blackmailed into freeing Darkseid's son Kalibak so that Granny Goodness can seize control of Apokolips. Granny had kidnapped Scott's mentor Oberon and had threatened his life. Breaking into the harshest prison on Apokolips, the X-Pit, is no mean feat, so the duo go to the Justice League for help and bring the Flash with them. Scott is uniquely suited to this mission because he is one of the only people to escape from the X-Pit. This places Scott in a situation that mirrors his childhood hardships, and inevitably frames the story as a metaphor for facing childhood trauma. He faces deadly traps, constant surveillance, and the seemingly endless horde of Vermin Wunderbar, who has his own eyes on Apokolips's throne. Rather than responding with anger or brute force, Scott relies on intelligence, timing, and patience. He recalls his childhood escapes, anticipates changes in the prison's layout, and adapts as circumstances shift. His approach is contrasted explicitly by other characters. The Flash, for all his speed and impulsive heroism, relies on reaction and force. Big Barda and Kalibak embody aggression and physical strength. The episode also emphasizes Scott's moral approach. Even when he outsmarts Granny by having the Martian Manhunter impersonate Kalibak, he could have used his abilities to dominate or punish her. Instead, he chooses to walk away, satisfied that Oberon is safe, because he'd prefer not to sully himself. Barda, meanwhile, has no such qualms. I'd say that this whole episode, and Mr. Miracle in general, demonstrates that escape is the highest form of mastery over adversity. It shows us how a hero can confront the impossible by understanding it, outthinking it, and maintaining a level head when under stress. We are shown his troubled upbringing, how he kept trying to break free, only to be caught and punished by Granny. But he doesn't let that hold him back. Scot-Free's name may have been a cruel joke on Granny's part, but it is key to his identity. Whether in the comics or the cartoons, Mr. Miracle reminds us that the desire to escape is universal. We all face challenges that feel insurmountable, problems that tempt us to react with rage or force. And it is so easy to give into that impulse, and oh Lord, don't I know that. But Scot-Free shows that there is another way. By keeping calm, observing carefully, and acting with intelligence and foresight, escape becomes a demonstration of mastery over circumstances and self. That philosophy is rooted in Jack Kirby's own life. His countless personal and professional escapes inform every aspect of Scot-Free. Mr. Miracle embodies Kirby's belief that freedom is earned through patience, ingenuity, and having strong morals. In contrast to the heroes who rely on aggression or overwhelming power, Scott demonstrates that courage and resilience can be patient, calculated, and profoundly human. Justice League Unlimited brings this to life. Here, Kirby's themes are translated into motion and dialogue. In the X-Pit, we see Scott navigate deadly traps and manipulate events to protect others, all while remaining calm under pressure. Big Barda, the Flash, and even Kalibak act as foils, highlighting the uniqueness of his approach. Heroism is not only about fistfights, but also about intelligence, restraint, and the ethical use of power. As Mr. Miracle prepares to return in a new series inspired by Tom King's acclaimed miniseries, these lessons remain vital. Scot-Free shows that escape is a practice of skill, morality, and self-mastery. In a world that rewards aggression, his greatest victories are not over other people, but over the invisible forces that seek to define us. Okay, that's it for this essay. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, leave a comment, tell all your friends about me. You know how YouTube works. If you really liked the video and feel like tossing a buck or two my way, please consider using the thanks button, because every little helps. And if you have really enjoyed my work, you might want to pick up a copy of my book, Rogues Gallery. It features 22 essays on villains from Batman the Animated Series. There's a beautiful cover by Batman the Animated Series background artist John Calmette, a foreword by director Dan Reber, and a moving segment from the late Kevin Conroy sharing his thoughts on life, love, and loss. Plus, an exclusive essay on the Condiment King that will never be made into a video. Rogues Gallery is available worldwide on Amazon, both digitally and in softcover. Finally, channel memberships are just $1.99 a month and give you early access to my essays, custom emojis, and your name featured on my members end screen, which has been rolling for a little while now. Huge thanks to everyone who's already part of this. You've helped to make these videos possible. If you want to see your name up here too, join the channel now. And while I have your attention, please consider checking out my other channel, Serum Lake Comics, where I talk about mostly DC comic books. Next time. On Monday, it'll be time to go back to the results of my final Beware the Batman poll to talk about the character that came in second place. It's the mercurial superhero called Metamorpho. And next Friday, I'm talking about an early episode of Batman the Animated Series that took a generic plant-themed supervillain from the comics and reimagined her as a righteous eco-warrior out to avenge a damaged ecosystem. Yes, it's time to talk about Pretty Poison. Hope to see you then.